Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a fabulous day here in 2010. Whatever, let's get on with it. What you might not know right now is that my internet connection was cut off, so I basically have nothing to do. Well, that's a lie because I can certainly do all those dishes, but I prefer to do a video. I wanted to take the opportunity that I have nothing to do so that I could tell you about my miserable New Year's Eve night that I had. Let me just start off by saying that I had to work that night, December 31st. And to make it worse, some stupid idiot, made a reservation at 10 o'clock in the evening. Who makes a reservation that late? Don't you know that the waiters have to get out and party? I mean, come on. My friend, coworker, she got the 10 o'clock reservation, but we were all going to go to the club, to the gay club, to celebrate New Year's Eve, so we decided to wait for her. Well, I did anyway, because I was the one driving. But first, she's like, well, I have to go to my house, to my apartment, because I forgot my boots that I wanted to wear. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if we can make that. So then, the table leaves, we clean up, we get out of there like at 11:30. We have like half hour to get to the club and stuff. And I was like, Carissa, I don't think we're gonna make it to your apartment and be at the club in time for the countdown. So I was like, drop Katie and I off at the club. You go to your apartment and get your things, and then you'll meet us back here. So lo and behold, she goes to her apartment, and the dumbass realizes that she locked herself out of her apartment when she left to go to work. So she drives back, like circles around to find a parking spot, decides to park right in front of the club entrance door, which will become important later. Um, she gets out of the car and locks my car. Now, what you don't know is that you're not supposed to lock my car because my car is ghetto, and we've had to change the starter engine thingy like a couple of times now. So the original key that used to open the trunk and the locks on the doors is not the same key that starts the car. But people don't know that, and I forget to tell people when they drive my car. Me and my friend Katie are already inside the club, partying. We have our Bud Lights in our hands, and we're ready to do the countdown and everything. Everybody's loud, everybody's kissing, everybody's like tight packed into the club. And she texts us with like, guys, I'm outside, I can't get in. They're not letting anybody else in until after 12 because it's so packed. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like 15 degrees outside. There's a line like a mile long outside the club. It's snowing slash raining. It's just miserable. So even though she sent us a text while we were inside, me and my friend Katie, it was only like 5 minutes until the countdown. So I'm like, do you really want to go outside and miss the whole shebang? Or do you want to like stay in here and then go see her? And we felt bad about it, but we decided to stay in the club and party into the countdown, the confetti thing. And then we decided to go to meet up with her outside. So I go outside and she's miserable. She's crying. She couldn't get her boots. She locked herself out of the car and her house. So she's like doing nothing now. She wants to walk home. I'm like, no, you're not walking home. You're going to come into the club and you're going to party with us. So she did. And I was like, don't worry about it. I know how to get inside the car because it's happened before. What I do is I usually just use one of the keys to open the trunk, and then in the back seat there's a cushion that pushes in, and then through that hole I can open the lock on the door. But I didn't tell her that right away. So I'm like, I know how to get in. Just come inside the club. So we party, blah, blah, blah. We end up leaving early to go to another club to meet up with some other friends. We party there, blah, blah, blah. We end up walking back because it's like 3:30 in the morning now or something like that. And then we get to the car, and I was like, I can't get inside my car because the key that opens my trunk is broken off. Because the last time somebody drove my car, my sister-in-law decided to lock the car as well. And when I told her to like just play with the key a little bit on the side door, the passenger side, I'm like, just keep playing with it. It'll eventually open. She pulled too hard, twisted too hard, and then the key broke off. So half the key is still inside the lock of the car. And I forgot all about this, so when I went to open the trunk that night, I was like, shit, I can't get inside the car. I can't get inside the trunk. So, like, me and a couple of friends were stuck in the middle of downtown Providence at 3:30 in the morning, snowing and raining. Might I add that one of my friends didn't even have a coat. She doesn't like to wear coats, so she was, like, freezing. And I was wearing my Converse sneakers, which, if you own a pair of Converse, you know how thin that piece of cloth is. So I couldn't feel my toes. So I called my brother. Actually, no, before that, I was like, oh, I don't know if anybody's going to be awake at my house if I call anybody. Because my only solution was to have someone drive up to Providence with the spare set of keys that I had in my room. But I was like, I don't think they're awake. So I texted my brother, And I was like, "Are you awake?" And he texts back with like, "No." I'm like, funny. So he eventually calls me and he tells me that my other brother and my parents are in fact awake in my house. So I call them. They're drinking. My brother's like, "I'll go bring you the set of keys." And while I believed him for a minute, I knew that he was gonna say, "I'll be there in a minute." But that 1 minute turned into 2 hours. We were waiting outside for 2 hours because he decided to just, relax, take his time, have another beer before he took off, get his coat on, warm up the car, do the whole bit before getting up to Providence, Rhode Island. And while it takes 15 to 20 minutes to get from my house to downtown, it took him 2 hours. Um, why? Because he decided to pawn me off to my cousin who had showed up at my house. And my brother was like, "Can you go pick up my brother? He's in downtown Providence." So I had to wait until my cousin drove all the way to downtown. And this whole time we were outside, huddling in a corner and just finding places to pee. And this whole time we got a hold of a coat hanger, unfoiled it, and we were trying to like get inside my car through the door and the window in front of the club entrance. How embarrassing is that? I was so embarrassed. I was like, "What is going on? This is the worst New Year's Eve ever." My friends were like, "Does anybody know how to open a car?" Like yelling at people walking by. I'm like, "Why? Why are you doing this?" We got a hold of a cop who was trying to help us. He didn't help at all. It was miserable. And then when we realized that we were going to wait for my cousin to drive up with the keys, we went inside the club to wait, in the warmth as opposed to the freezing cold, and they kicked us out saying the club was closed. "Get the hell out of here. We don't want you here." Such a mess. And then this guy is walking by us, some stranger, good looking guy, but kind of a meth user. First, he came up saying how much of a bad night he was having, and I'm like, "Oh, really? Is that it?" I was like, "I bet you we're having a much worse night than you're having." And then we begin to talk, and he's saying how he was at another club and how his friends just up and left him. They just took his car, went home, didn't even tell him. They're like, "See ya." And now he has to walk home, basically. And I'm like, "All right, you win." And to boot, he had like an open collar shirt, like no shirt underneath, rolled up sleeves. I'm like, "Crazy. Roll down your sleeves and cover up your shirt a little bit because you're going to freeze to death." And I was like, "If you want, I can give you a ride to Pawtucket when my ride gets here." So all four of us were outside freezing. My cousin finally drives up. I open the trunk, I open the locks, I turn on the car, we take off. And I go to drop this guy off in Pawtucket, and I'm thinking he's gonna like take us out to a field and like kill us because the directions he was telling me to go, it was like all these back streets, and I'm starting to see like big fields and like these industrial looking old abandoned places. I'm like, if this guy is taking us to kill us today, I will seriously like have a baby right now. So it turns out he lives like really far. I have no idea where I am. I finally drop him off. He's happy, blah blah blah. We decide to go back home to, go home. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning now, and we decide to stop at a Dunkin' Donuts because, we're hungry and depressed. We get our sandwiches, we get back inside my car, and my car doesn't start. My car doesn't start. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, why is this happening to me?" And I was just miserable. We were there for like 5 or 10 minutes trying to start the car. Finally, I started, and we start driving. My gas is on empty. I have no more bars in my cell phone battery, so I can't call anybody if I get stuck somewhere. Miserable. We finally find an open gas station because remember, it's January 1st. Everything's closed, but we find one that's open, and we fill up on gas, and then we start driving, and we don't know where we're going. And then we're lost. We're basically lost. And then before you know it, I'm driving through a sign that says, "Welcome to Massachusetts." I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm ready to give up on 2010. And even though it's just 5 hours into it, but I'm like, whatever, I'm done. I'm so over with 2010. So we drive, and then we finally find the highway, and then on we go to home. My New Year's Eve countdown was amazing. I had a little bit of fun at the club because I wasn't there for that long, but I was there for enough time to have fun. And my midnight kiss happened to be with my lesbian friend. I'm like, F my life. Like, how bad could this night be? How was your New Year's Eve?